They said the world would end on December 21st, 1954. A woman named Dorothy Martin claimed to receive transmissions from extraterrestrial beings on the planet Clarion. They warned of a massive flood that would swallow the Earth. But salvation would come to the faithful. A spacecraft would arrive just in time. Her followers were not fringe lunatics. They were teachers, nurses, engineers, people with mortgages and marriages. They quit their jobs, sold their possessions, and waited together, dressed in robes, hands lifted to the sky. But the sky remained silent. The flood never came. The Earth did not crack. The spaceship never arrived. And yet, they didn't walk away. They didn't admit they were wrong. They didn't grieve the betrayal. They believed harder. They told themselves they had saved the world through their faith. That Clarion's message had changed. That they had been chosen not to escape, but to enlighten others. This wasn't just a moment of delusion. It was the unveiling of a hidden rule inside the human psyche. And it's not just in cults. It's inside you. Right now, every day, you might believe. You make decisions based on logic, values, reason. You compare options, weigh consequences, choose consciously. But buried under those surface calculations is a law more powerful than logic, not morality, not intelligence, consistency. Your mind's most urgent drive is not truth, but coherence. To make your actions align with your beliefs, and, more dangerously, to make your beliefs align with your actions. This is known in psychology as cognitive consistency, and when that harmony is disrupted, it creates a deeply uncomfortable state called cognitive dissonance, a psychological stress response that can trigger actual pain in the brain. Studies using fMRI scans have shown that cognitive dissonance activates the anterior cingulate cortex, the same region involved in detecting threats and processing physical pain. To your brain, contradiction isn't just irritating, it's a form of danger. So it adapts, silently, subtly. It edits the facts. It reframes the past. It distorts your perception of yourself and of reality, just to stay internally aligned. And this process is so automatic, so invisible, that you'll feel completely rational as it's happening. Let's make it tangible. You buy an expensive juicer. A week later, you find out it breaks easily. It's noisy, and the cheaper model was better. Logic says, return it. But your brain, already invested in the purchase, begins the defense. It has a sleek design. Actually, I like the sound. It's powerful. This brand always delivers high quality. This is post-purchase rationalization, a subset of cognitive consistency. You're not lying, you're reconciling. Because admitting you made a bad decision is harder than pretending it was the right one. Now zoom out. This isn't just about juicers. It's about careers, relationships, ideologies, identity. In 1959, psychologists Festinger and Carl-Smith ran a brilliant experiment. Participants completed a boring, repetitive task for an hour. Then, they were asked to lie to the next participant, telling them it was fun. Some were paid $20 for the lie. Others, just $1. Who do you think enjoyed the task more? Surprisingly, those paid $1 reported liking it more. Why? Because the payment wasn't enough to justify the lie. Their minds had to adjust their internal beliefs to match their actions. I must have liked it if I said it was fun. This is not manipulation. This is autopilot, and the pattern doesn't stop. You stay in the job you hate because leaving would mean your college major was wasted. You defend your political view, not because it still makes sense, but because you've already posted about it online. You protect the relationship, the investment, the tradition, because changing your mind feels like erasing part of your identity. And your brain won't let you, because in the architecture of the psyche, coherence is safety. This is why false beliefs persist. In one 2012 study published in Psychological Science, people were shown misinformation during a mock political debate. Even after the misinformation was clearly debunked, many participants still clung to the false claims, not because they lacked intelligence, because they had already attached to the information. Psychologically, socially, and emotionally, the belief had become part of their identity. And beliefs tied to identity are harder to revise than facts tied to reason. Think of your identity as a house. Each belief is a brick. Each action, a layer of paint. Each value, a room. When a contradiction appears, you're faced with a choice. Tear down a wall, remove a foundational brick, or cover it. Paint over it. Tell yourself, it was always meant to look this way. Most of us choose the latter. And the more we build, the more we fear collapse. This is why people escalate commitment in toxic environments. Their essay term for it: the sunk cost fallacy. The belief that past investment justifies continued investment, even when the situation is failing. In one behavioral study by Arks and Bloomer in 1985, participants were more likely to continue funding a project after being told a large amount had already been spent, even when evidence showed it was a losing venture. Why? Because stopping would mean admitting the earlier investment was a mistake. And our brains resist that conclusion with everything they've got. So we keep pouring energy into broken dreams, expired plans, and unworkable systems, not because we believe they'll work, but because we need to believe we weren't wrong. Even memory itself is not immune. Psychologist Elizabeth Loftus demonstrated that people can form vivid, emotional, false memories of events that never happened, simply because the memory fits into a coherent personal narrative. In other words, your brain will create fake memories, if that's what it takes to keep your story straight. And then it will protect those memories with the same intensity as real ones. So when you say, "That's just how I remember it," ask yourself, do you remember it, or have you just never questioned it? This hidden rule, this craving for mental consistency, is not evil. It exists to help you function, to reduce mental friction, to allow you to move through the world without constant cognitive chaos. But what happens when consistency comes at the cost of growth? What happens when your mind fights change, not because it's as bad, but because it is inconsistent with who you used to be? This is the silent killer of transformation, because self-help books will tell you to be true to yourself. But what if yourself is built on outdated, unexamined, inherited, or harmful scripts? There's a solution, but it's not a shortcut. You must train your mind to tolerate dissonance. You must allow contradiction to exist, without immediately resolving it. This is what philosophers call dialectical thinking, the ability to hold opposing truths simultaneously. I was wrong, and I was doing my best. I believed this, and I might change my mind. I loved them, and I had to leave. These are not inconsistencies. They are human truths. And they only feel uncomfortable because your mind is wired to chase simplicity, not wisdom. To grow, you have to become fluent in mental contradiction. Here's how. Practice pausing before defending your position. When challenged, don't argue. Ask, why do I believe this? When did I start? Let go of legacy identity. You are not obligated to be consistent with who you were, only with who you re-becoming. Don't seek comfort. Seek clarity. Discomfort often signals growth. If something feels off, don't ignore it. Examine it. Redefine loyalty. Being loyal to your past self is noble, but being loyal to your future self is transformational. Because real freedom, psychological freedom, doesn't come from choosing what feels familiar. It comes from being able to say, I believed this, I acted on it, and now I see it differently. That sentence can save you years, maybe decades. You've heard the phrase, stay true to yourself. But there's a better one. Stay true to the truth, even when it changes. Because what you think of as you might just be a long list of mental shortcuts your brain never stopped to question. Now is your chance. Not to throw everything away, not to shame your past, but to look in the mirror and ask, is this belief mine, or just the easiest one to keep? And if it's not, you know what to do.